The elevator doors were just about to close when a tiny hand slipped through the gap. Alexander Reed, the cold, withdrawn CEO known in the business world as a man made of stone, watched in surprise as a little girl stumbled inside, panting, clutching an old stuffed rabbit. But what he didn't expect, what would change his life forever, was how she looked up at him with trembling lips and whispered, "Please don't let my mom die." Alexander froze. No assistant. No security. No cameras. Just a desperate child with tear-soaked cheeks and a plea that pierced through years of loneliness he had buried deep. The elevator kept rising, but something in him fell apart. Chapter 1: The Plea That Broke Through Ice. Her name was Lily. She couldn't have been more than 7, with tangled hair and fear filling her eyes. When Alexander knelt down to steady her shaking hands, she broke down completely. "My mom," she fainted in the lobby. "They said an ambulance is coming but it's too slow." Everyone just stepped around her. "They said they were busy." "Please, you look important, you can help, right?" Important. He had built skyscrapers. Run 1,000 meetings. Closed deals worth billions. But in that moment, he had never felt more helpless. Still, he scooped her into his arms and rushed downstairs. Chapter 2: The Moment He Saw Her. There, on the cold marble floor of his corporate building, lay a woman, pale, unconscious, barely breathing. A small crowd watched from a distance but no one moved closer. Alexander's heart slammed against his ribs. He didn't recognize her at first, until her ID card slipped out of her purse. Amelia Grant. One of his own employees, a single mother working in customer support, known only by an employee number he had probably approved on a spreadsheet years ago. He dropped to his knees. "Call my private medical team, now," he barked. For the first time in years, his voice shook. Chapter 3: A Life Between Moments. It took only minutes for his personal doctor, Dr. Rhodes, to arrive. Lily clung to Alexander's sleeve as they carried her mother into his private emergency car. "Why are you helping us?" she asked in a small voice. He didn't know how to explain the sudden ache in his chest. Maybe it was the memory of his own mother collapsing when he was a child. Maybe it was the loneliness he lived with every day. Maybe it was simply that someone finally needed him, not for business, not for wealth, but for something real. "You're not alone, Lily," he whispered back. "Not anymore." Chapter 4: Fighting Time. At the private hospital, the truth finally came out. Amelia had been working double shifts for months. Exhaustion. Malnutrition. Stress. Her body had given up long before she did. Lily sat at her mother's bedside, clutching her hand. Machines beeped softly around them. "She's all I have," Lily said. "If she goes away, I go back to the foster home. I don't want to lose her again." Alexander felt the words like knives. He stayed. Hours passed. He watched Amelia's breathing falter, then stabilize, only to weaken again. When Dr. Rhodes explained she needed an emergency procedure the public insurance wouldn't cover, Lily panicked. Alexander didn't hesitate. "Do everything you need," he commanded. "I'll cover it." It wasn't charity. It wasn't pity. It was something deeper, something he had forgotten he could feel. Chapter 5: The Night of Miracles. The surgery lasted 5 hours. Lily refused to sleep. Every time she felt herself drifting off, she gripped Alexander's hand to stay awake. "Is my mom going to live?" she whispered. Alexander couldn't lie. "I hope so, Lily. And I'm right here. I'm not leaving." For the first time in decades, he prayed. When Dr. Rhodes finally stepped out with tired eyes and a small smile, Lily burst into tears. "She's stable," he said. "Your mom is a fighter." Alexander let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. Lily threw her arms around him, sobbing into his suit. Thank you for saving her." He didn't save her, not alone. But maybe he had saved something in himself. Chapter 6: Healing a Family, Healing a Heart. Days passed. Alexander visited every morning. He brought Lily breakfast. He brought Amelia flowers. He brought silence, warmth, and a presence he didn't know he was capable of giving. Amelia woke slowly, confused, exhausted, but alive. When she saw Lily asleep in Alexander's lap, her eyes filled with tears. "You didn't have to help us," she whispered weakly. He looked at her, and for the first time, she saw the loneliness hiding in the man everyone feared. "I did," he said softly. "Because no one helped me when I needed it most." Chapter 7, The Bond No One Expected. Once Amelia recovered enough to speak normally, she tried to thank him again. "I don't know how to repay you," she said, voice trembling. "You don't have to repay anything," Alexander replied. "Just, let me stay in Lily's life." Lily ran to him and hugged his waist. "I want you to stay forever." It broke something inside him, and healed something else. He wasn't just a CEO anymore. He was someone who finally belonged somewhere. Chapter 8, What Came After. Alexander made changes no one expected. He personally funded a full medical and financial support program for single parents working in his company. He officially promoted Amelia and ensured she never had to worry again. And every weekend, he took Lily to her favorite park, where she would run around laughing, her laughter replacing the silence that had filled his penthouse for years. One sunny morning, as they watched Lily chase pigeons, Amelia turned to him. "You did something unbelievable," she said. "You saved my life. But more than that, you saved my daughter's world." Alexander looked at Lily, then at Amelia. "No," he whispered. "You both saved mine." Ending message. Sometimes the greatest miracles happen not in grand gestures, but in the quiet moments when a stranger chooses kindness over indifference. And sometimes, a lonely heart finds a family exactly when it stops believing it deserves one. Amelia returned home 2 weeks after the surgery, still weak but healing. Lily clung to her side every moment, terrified that if she blinked, her mother might disappear again. Alexander, despite his towering corporate responsibilities, visited them almost every evening. But as life slowly settled, something unexpected began to grow, something that neither Amelia nor Alexander had planned for. It started with small things. The way Lily would run to him the moment he arrived. The way Amelia would smile when she heard his knock at the door. The way Alexander, who once hated noise, now felt uneasy in his silent penthouse. One evening, he stood outside their small apartment, hesitating before he knocked. He had faced hostile boardrooms, international investors, and ruthless competitors, but nothing made him as nervous as the soft laughter he heard from inside. He raised his hand and knocked. The door opened to Amelia, wearing a simple sweater, her hair tied loosely. She looked tired, but alive, warm, and somehow brighter than anything in his cold high-rise world. "Come in," she said with a gentle smile, stepping aside. The warmth of their home wrapped around him like a blanket, something he didn't know he had missed in his life. The fear Amelia hid. That night, after Lily fell asleep on the couch, Amelia made tea and sat across from him. "You've done more for us than anyone ever has," she said. "I want to repay you, even if it takes my whole life." "You don't owe me anything," he replied. "I didn't help you to collect something in return." But she looked down at her hands, trembling slightly. "I'm scared," she whispered. "I keep thinking, what if it happens again? What if Lily ends up alone? What if everything I've worked for collapses because of my health?" Her voice cracked. "I'm trying my best. But I'm so tired." Alexander leaned forward, his tone softer than she had ever heard. "You're not alone anymore, Amelia. You don't have to carry everything on your own shoulders." Her eyes shimmered, but she quickly wiped them. It was the first time in years anyone had told her that. Lily's secret wish. Over the next week, Amelia grew stronger. She walked more. She smiled more. She even returned to work part-time. Alexander had arranged a flexible schedule so she never had to worry. But it was Lily who changed the most. One day, when Alexander picked her up from school, she tugged on his jacket and whispered, "Can I tell you a secret?" He nodded. "When I prayed that night in the hospital," she said shyly, "I didn't just pray for my mom to live. I prayed for you too." "For me?" he asked, stunned. She nodded harder. "I prayed that you wouldn't be lonely anymore." Alexander blinked, trying to breathe around the sudden tightness in his chest. "And I prayed that maybe," she paused, kicking a pebble on the sidewalk. "Maybe you could be my family someday." Alexander felt something inside him break open, slowly, quietly, but completely. He didn't answer right away. He didn't know if he could. But he reached down and gently held her hand, and she squeezed back with trust that felt too pure to deserve. Rumors and shadows. Back at the office, things were different. Employees whispered when the CEO walked by with an uncharacteristic softness around his eyes. Some wondered if he had changed, others wondered if he had finally found something worth living for. But not everyone supported him. His board members were confused, and some were threatened. A lonely CEO was predictable. A compassionate CEO was dangerous, unpredictable, and harder to manipulate. During a meeting one afternoon, his oldest board member, Mr. Hawthorne, leaned forward and sneered, spending company resources on protecting low-level staff. Visiting an employee's home daily. What exactly is happening to you, Alexander? Humanity, Alexander replied coolly. You should try it sometime. The room went silent. Later that night, he found himself wondering if he was ready for the storm he was walking into. But then he remembered Lily's small hand in his. Amelia's smile. The fragile safety they were rebuilding. It was worth fighting for. The night Amelia collapsed again. Days later, just when life felt steady, it happened. Amelia collapsed again. Alexander had been in a late meeting when Lily called him, sobbing uncontrollably. Please come, she fell again, she won't wake up. He didn't wait for the elevator. He ran down 20 floors of stairs and drove faster than he ever had. When he reached their apartment, Lily launched herself into his arms, shaking violently. She said she was fine, Lily cried. She promised she was okay. Alexander carried Amelia himself to his car, refusing to waste a second. At the hospital, doctors rushed her into a room, and Alexander watched from the hallway, helpless, as Lily cried into his chest. Is my mom going to die? She asked, voice breaking. He held her tighter. Not if I can help it, he whispered fiercely. But when the doctor returned, his expression was serious. This isn't just exhaustion anymore, Dr. Rhodes said quietly. We need to run deeper tests. It may be something far more complicated. Alexander felt the ground shift beneath him. He wasn't ready to lose her. Lily couldn't survive losing her. And he couldn't survive watching her break. The promise that changed everything. Later that night, as Amelia lay unconscious again, Lily sat beside her and held her mother's hand. Alexander, she whispered, not looking away from her mom, if something bad happens, will you take care of me? He felt the question like a punch straight to the heart. Without hesitation, without fear, without doubt, he answered. I will protect you both. No matter what it costs. No matter what it changes. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. Lily leaned against him and finally cried herself to sleep. And Alexander Reed, the man who once had everything except love, knew that this was the moment his life truly changed. Forever.